take it in a new direction. That's better. That's better. Let's use that. One of my teachers would often say that anything material in your life is like zeros. So like lots of zeros. So every time you have a new material accomplishment or a material success or a material goal, it's like a zero. And all those zeros, if you look at them as they are, they're not valuable at all. They actually don't satisfy the soul and the heart and the example that you gave earlier on. But actually, if your integrity in this language, if your spiritual connection is aligned, then that's like that one in front of all those zeros.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all those zeros have meaning.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that as an 18-year-old and thinking, oh, that makes so much sense because I meet so many people who have all the zeros in the world, but they themselves will tell me, and even more so now where people I'm working with and coaching will tell me, Jay, this means nothing, like this doesn't work. And now they're seeking that spiritual connection. And so that's where I'm seeing it, that actually all of this can be given value when we have this pursuit aligned in integrity, but all of it loses value when we don't have that.
It's really beautiful. And I believe that suffering has two functions. And one is to get us back into alignment. And the second is to push our imaginations to play with this material universe in a creative way. So every person I've ever coached who has suffered greatly for whatever reason and then found peace makes more peace with the suffering they've experienced.
Can you say that again? That was beautiful.
Every suffering is the raw material for its opposite. The more time you've spent in fear, if you go to peace, you have more courage than others. If you've spent more time in depression, you go to peace, you have more joy. You spent time in rage. You go to peace, you have more ability to be peaceful and to spread peace. One of my favorite examples is the spiritual teacher Byron Katie. Do you know of her?
Yeah, I've interviewed her. She's been on the podcast.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I was talking to her one day, and she was a woman who was in horrible, horrible depression, every kind of pain, physical, mental, everything. And then she lost the ability to believe her own thoughts and was suddenly in a space of complete peace and bliss, because thought is what connects us to culture. And once she lost the ability to be in culture, she was her true self. And I was talking to her one day, and she said something about being, the transformation. And I said, well, you can't have been that bad. And she looked at me very seriously, and she said, no, I was a very bad person. And she was absolutely serious. She is the most delightful, joyful, blissful human being you can imagine. And it's because she was so miserable that when she came to peace, her life exploded into joy. So whatever suffering you've got going on, whoever's out there listening, come to peace. And yes, a one will appear in front of those zeros and you'll be richer than you ever imagined.
And what are those some of those beginning steps towards peace, Martha, that you beautifully lay out in the book? But tell us some of those steps to peace, because I think when we think of peace again, and this is why, going back to the concept you've shared with us, when we think about peace, the problem is the understanding we have of peace is the culture's definition of peace.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, like that's what peace looks like. Like peace looks like this very perfect tranquility. And that's the challenge, that when you have that cultural image and vision of what peace looks like, you don't allow for the pathway to peace to look like that. I always feel like we have two things we're always looking at: our vision of reality and then the actual path we're walking.
Right.
But the actual path to peace doesn't look like the vision to peace. So we leave it. We abandon that path. Google
peace and you get 8 million pictures of women sitting on a deck in the sunset. And it's like, that's not peace. That's boring.
Yeah.
Actual peace is that alignment I was talking about. The feeling that our bodies, hearts, minds, and souls are all working in the same, they're working like a team of horses that are exactly matched, and they will go all kinds of amazing places. Like they'll push you into action as surely as they'll push you into rest. I had an autoimmune disease, several actually. From the time I was 18 to the time I was about 30, I was almost completely bedridden and in constant pain, physical pain. So it was not a fun time. Raised my kids on a king-size bed, basically. And as I was trying to find my way out of that, what I realized is that my body was responding to whether or not I was in the truth. I had to connect my story in my head to the truth that my body was telling. And then when I started following my body, heart, and soul, as well as my mind, I locked into this thing that I call integrity in this book, but it's also peace. But it was at that point, I remember I got diagnosis for one of these. They were all terminal, progressive autoimmune illnesses with no cure. And I was resting. I was in peace. I was meditating. What else do you do when you're bedridden for 12 years? But they'd given me a hotline that I could call. I called this hotline and I said, I've been resting, and the pain is getting worse. And the nurse on the hotline said, when your soul wants to dance, then lying down is effort and dancing is complete, perfect peace. Like dance, get up, move. Even if it hurts, do what your soul wants. And it completely knocked me out of that whole yoga pose thing. Nothing against yoga. But I realized that true peace pulls us through life by all four of those, body, heart, mind, soul, and into joy and into wonderful, amazing situations. It's put you behind that microphone right now. Like, it's not static. It's ecstatic. It's dancing.
Tell me about the opposite, Martha. I'm intrigued by something because I learned about